This next dish is another very simple, straightforward fish entree. You could serve it as an entree. You could even serve it as a first course if you're having a dinner party. And it's kind of fun to do it this way. We're going to steam it in paper en papillote. And it's something you can get ready ahead of time and put it in the refrigerator, and then when you're ready to eat, stick it in the oven, and you're basically ready to go, and that way you can spend more time with your guests.
One thing I'll just say is, often I hear people say fish. We all want to eat more fish. And everyone says, I would like to eat more fish, but I don't know how to cook fish, and it's such a commitment, and I'm not really sure what to do. And I sometimes say the same thing, but this is a really easy, and everyone says, oh, I don't want the whole house to smell like fish, and this is a very easy, very approachable way of doing fish. And I know that's always a big concern because there's always talk about omega-3s, and fishes are a great source of omega-3s, and how do we get them in our diet? I can't eat fish twice a week. So, this is a great way of getting, an easy way of getting fish into your diet.
And you just mentioned something that, just to back up a little bit, in terms of making your house, or avoiding having your house smell like fish. This is a great way to do it, because I love fish, but I don't like that the next morning when you go down to the kitchen and it smells like Jimmy's Fish Shack. So this is a good way to kind of keep what we're going to do. I'm getting ahead of myself. This is parchment paper. A square of it down on the table, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. I've got a beautiful piece of halibut. If you don't want to use halibut, you could use any kind of fish, really. Salmon, cod,
and there's a lot
bass.
of topic of mercury. So we chose fishes. We chose a fish that was lower in mercury. That's obviously a lot of people are concerned about the mercury content of. And there's lots of, if you ever want to, if you're not sure what to eat, and if you're concerned about the mercury, you can always go in and look at websites that will tell you sort of lower mercury. But we chose one that was a local fish, and also that had lower content of mercury, but a higher source of omega-3s. Does everybody know when I say omega-3s what I'm talking about? So omega-3s are essential fatty acids that our body needs, but our body does not make on its own. So in most of the fats that we get, we're not getting the omega-3s. So our body does need the omega-3s, and we get them from very few sources. The best source is going to be your fish. So again, as we talked about, trying to get in fish twice a week is sometimes hard. Some people do supplements, fish oil supplements. But this is a great way. Yeah. And another thing I wanted to mention is he drizzled olive oil. We've sort of come out of the fear of fat phase. I think we were in this big fear of like, oh my gosh, we can't have anything with fat. But really understanding that fat is good, and it's just choosing the right fats. And he drizzled olive oil, and that we really want to sort of welcome fats into our diet. As we talked about sort of introducing more of the Mediterranean diet, which is very, a lot of Mediterranean diet has to do with fish, and also using oils, nut oils, olive oils. So not to be afraid of using fat. You think, oh my gosh, I can't have fat in my foods, but actually it's good to introduce some healthy fats.
And again, in moderation, like everything else. So olive oil down. I sprinkled next a little bit of chopped fresh thyme. It's not on the recipe, but I happen to have it, so why not? I've got some lemon zest. You could put that on there as well. So, I didn't put any salt, but certainly a little bit is fine, I think. But again, that's up to you.
He's a chef, he needs to do it.
And then some fresh ground black pepper. Then we'll just take the paper and wrap it up around the fish, making a little package, a little bundle, and that's it. And you do each piece individually. I can do one more quickly, and then into the oven. This goes for about a preheated oven, about 6 to 10 minutes, depending on how hot your oven runs. Some people's oven run differently, but I'd say around 325, 350 degrees.
And one thing that in the recipe, it shows about a 4-ounce portion, which you want to just lift up to show what it kind of looks like. You
can see.
We talk about sort of risk factors, and a lot of what we talked about too is one of the biggest risk factors for all of where we're here tonight is being overweight or obesity. And one of the biggest topics that we talk about in our cardiac rehab is portions. We might all be eating the right foods, but it's the amount, and that's sort of a recommended 4-ounce portion. And it was nice that you could sort of visualize, see what it actually looks like. Because you go to a restaurant, and you're sometimes getting 16 ounces. And when it's in front of you, you eat it. So it's nice to sort of visualize what a 4-ounce portion. Fish is a great alternative to a protein source at nighttime. If you're kind of wanting to switch it up, it's lower in fat, and it's good for you. So it's something to think about.
So with the halibut, I wanted to serve some mushrooms. It's springtime. Morel mushrooms scream spring. They're definitely a very, if you can see this on the video, they're definitely a super spring item. So this is the time of year to enjoy them. If you can't get them and you want to make this another time of year, shiitakes, button mushrooms, chanterelles in the summertime, whatever it is, are fine. But we'll just add the mushrooms to a hot saute pan with a little olive oil and let these, I hope there's no smoke alarm in here because the night's going to end quickly if there is.
Will you quickly just talk about, I mean, this is sort of, but the heat temperature in different oils? Because that's something that I sort of learned is sort of how certain oils have certain heat temps.
The smoking point. Olive oil, well, butter, for example, as a fat, has a very, very low smoking point. So we all know what happens when we turn our back on the pan of butter and then we turn around and it's brown. You've made brown butter, which is delicious. You can use it for other things, of course, but it happens quickly. Peanut oil or grapeseed oil is at the other end of the spectrum. Very, very high smoking point, which means you can heat it up to very high temperatures before it starts to burn and become bitter and break down. Olive oil, which is what I'm using here, has a fairly low smoking point. So if you heat it up too much, it will start to break down relatively quickly, and you'll get kind of a bitter taste. So you want to be, if you're using extra virgin olive oil, well, actually, I would say that I wouldn't necessarily use a really good extra virgin olive oil for cooking in a pan. I would save a really good olive oil for drizzling on bread or on a salad or finishing a piece of fish with, just so you don't lose those beautiful flavors. So use a regular olive oil for cooking in a pan.
And once it has hit the smoke temperature, you lose the nutritional benefit of it. It breaks down, and it's not as healthy for you. So that's something, I obviously recommend olive oil, but there are a lot of other oils out there, as you mentioned, peanut oil, canola oil, grapeseed oil, that you can use that are better for if you are going to saute.
So I just added a little bit more oil. If I was cooking at home, I would have just added butter, but I'm going to add a little bit more. I move the mushrooms off to the side. I add a little bit of fat, whatever your fat of choice, and that way I can then add some shallots and a little bit of garlic. The reason I do that now is because I wanted to give the mushrooms a chance to saute and to brown. If I put the garlic and the shallots in sooner, they would have burned, and you would get kind of that bitter, burnt garlic taste, which I wanted to save that for the mushrooms. So once the mushrooms are brown, then a little fat. In that hot fat, I saute the shallots and the garlic.
And again, he's using different flavors.
White wine.
To add to this dish. That's, learning how to sort of use different flavors to add to the dish without having to add lots of salt.
Right.
And you can smell it, because I'm starting to smell it. I'm right next to it, but. But you smell the garlic and the onions, and then just a little bit of the acidity from the white wine to give it the flavor.
Now at this point, whoa, what's so funny? So at this point, they're pretty much done. It's fairly quick. So I would have wrapped up the fish, stuck them in the oven, put the mushrooms in the pan, cooked the mushrooms. You can see that we've got a little bit of sauce in the pan from that wine. Which is fantastic. I might add a little bit more wine and make sure that the alcohol burns off. And so all the juice from the mushrooms and the flavor from the garlic and the shallots are going to get into the pan. And there's your sauce. There's no cream, there's no butter, there's none of that. Again, I would definitely want to finish this. I love lemon, because lemon, as we mentioned a few minutes ago, really, acidity brings out the flavors of something, whatever it is you're cooking. It heightens flavors. I don't want to add so much lemon that I taste lemon, but I just want the acidity to kind of brighten the flavors that are in the pan.
I was making chicken soup from scratch, and I never thought, he said, add lime juice right at the end. Because I was trying to make it so it wasn't, you should feel like whenever you make soup, you have to keep adding. And he said, just add lime juice at the very end. And I said, all right. And it was just enough to give it a little heightened flavor. So, and again, he's using mushrooms, but think about whatever's local. And what I talked about is sort of bulking up each plate with any kind of vegetable. So sautéing vegetables, roasting vegetables, steaming vegetables, but making sure that a good half of your plate is coming from different vegetables. And you could do this time of year asparagus, as we saw in the soup. Asparagus is in season. We're coming into some sort of hardy greens, and that's something you could saute as well. So there are a lot of different options, because I know the other thing that people always say is I feel like I'm eating the same thing over and over again. So it's with the seasons, you're constantly introducing new fruits and vegetables.
So to show you how to unwrap this, this is the magic of television, as they say. I've got the before, and then this is the after. These have just come out of the oven. They're hot. Ow. You see the oven that we have back here. So I'll just unwrap these guys and use it's upside down, but I've got a fish spatula or just a regular spatula, and just take the piece of paper. Because the fish is going to be delicate, it's cooked, it's flaky, it will fall apart easily, and that's okay if it does. But for the sake of making it look a little nicer, you can take the paper and just flip it over on the spatula, and then just place it on the plate, and you're pretty much done. There you go. And that's
beautiful.